Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the UBC Weekly News Roundup. It is the last day of the first month of the new year, and my name is Lauryn Masika Kazimoto, here to bring you our news today. Now we start off with our first headlining story today. COVID-19 drug trial has been launched in Uganda. The Ugandan-made drug, whose scientific code is UBV01N, will be tried on 128 patients, COVID-19 patients already admitted at the Mulago Hospital. The UBV01N clinical trial is a climax of a research by a team of Ugandan scientists led by Dr. Grace Nambatia-Cheine that began in April 2020. This is the first Ugandan natural chemotherapeutic product to go through an international level clinical trial process. We have the story.
Kaguta Museveni has presided over the launch of Uganda's first COVID-19 clinical trials at Mulago National Referral Hospital.
It is now my pleasure to hand UBV-01 November 01N to this man whom I'm keeping at a distance in case he has got corona. But I can have a photograph.
The drug UBV-01N is a product of the Natural Chemotherapeutics Research Institute, anticipated to have antiviral, anti-inflammatory, and immunological abilities. The product has already gone through multiple quality assurance steps and has got all necessary certifications and approval for human use and in a clinical trial setting. Speaking at the launch, President Museveni decried the tendency of over-reliance on the Western world by many African countries.
And they are dying, and they are waiting for Europeans to save them. If the Europeans don't get a vaccine, we shall die and don't get finished. If they don't get a solution, we shall die. This one I cannot accept. I really feel infuriated when I see Africans sitting here waiting to die if the Europeans don't find a solution. Then we are going to what is Oxugansa. When you are supposed to do the work, you say so and so should be the one to do it. This one I cannot accept.
He congratulated Ugandan scientists for coming up with this treatment solution, saying it validates his push for improved pay among health professionals.
One of my targets will be to ensure that our scientists are well paid. I will no longer tolerate a situation of scientists who are worried about what to eat and what to put on. When I came from the bush, I found some scientists at Kawanda. I don't want to mention their names. One had a shoe which was like this.
The president was also informed of the lengthy procurement process the team behind this new treatment had to endure. On this, Museveni warned against the unnecessary red tape in procurement, which he says leads to corrupt tendencies.
The people who are so-called procurement people, how can they not know this? So when they were buying those machines like this one, which we want for our vaccine, they bought that machine. I said, go to hell, I don't want to hear that. I order you go and pay for it. Forget about that idiotic so-called procurement law.
On her part, the Health Minister, Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng, revealed that the clinical trial will ensure validation of the drug, enhance its replication, and thereafter will be rolled out for industrial production and public use.
The study objective is to assess the effectiveness of this natural product in the treatment of COVID-19 patients. Initially, the study will enroll adult COVID inpatients who have various degrees of severity of symptoms of COVID-19, from mild to severe.
The UBV-01N is a brainchild of the Presidential Scientific Initiative on Epidemics, which is a think tank of scientists with a core mission of developing products and tools to respond to COVID-19 and other epidemics. Samuel Senono, UBC News.
Now, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni this week compared the National Resistance Army revolutionary victory of 1986 against the dictatorial regime of the former President Apollo Milton Obote to the just concluded 2021 presidential election triumph in which the NRM defeated other political parties. In his comparative analysis, Museveni said that the 1986 revolutionary victory was not about a victory of the army, but a victory for ideas that they represented. The president made these remarks while officiating at the occasion marking 35 years of the NRM-NRA Victory Day celebrations at State House in Entebbe. Take a look.
This year's celebrations were held under the theme celebrating the 35th NRM-NRMA Victory Day, a call to play our duty in securing our nation's future. Speaking at the function, President Museveni, who was flanked by the First Lady Janet Museveni, took Ugandans through the core principles of the NRM-NRA from 1965 when they formed the student movement from 3 old parties.
When we formed the student movement, initially people were laughing at us. They were saying, these young people don't know what they are talking about. But we are not realistic. That realism meant that you had to be sectarian. The sectarianism was natural. We said this is rubbish. Because when I went to school, there was no Munyankore who helped me to go to school. I was actually helped by non-Munyankore to study. How? Because they were the ones buying our cows.
The president says they rejected the politics of identity and embraced the politics of interest because politics of identity was wrong, futile, and not practical.
So therefore, the victory of the NRM in 1986 was not just a victory of army. It was also a victory of ideas. Which idea, this one or this one? Even this last election, it's the same struggle between ideas. Some people have got some different ideas, but the NRM has got its ideas, which are four principles. Patriotism, love Uganda. Yes, we have our tribes, we have our religious groups, but please, love Uganda. If you love Uganda, you will solve the problems of the people better than if you emphasize loving the tribes and the religious groups.
About the just concluded elections, Museveni thanked Ugandans for overwhelmingly voting NRM. He, however, sent out a strong warning to all those fanning violence.
I appeal to all Ugandans, forget about violence. Don't dream about it, because it won't work. It won't work. Forget about threats. Please, you're wasting your time and you're creating blood pressure for nothing for yourself.
Earlier on, Monsignor Charles Kasibante, who represented the Archbishop Dr. Cyprian Torwanga, asked the president to lead the way in fostering reconciliation efforts amongst top leaders in the country. Museveni, however, indicated that he has been the main crusader of politics of tolerance. Present at the celebrations were Vice President Edward Chwanuka Sekandi, Speaker Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga, Chief Justice Owinyi-Dolo, Prime Minister Rwakana Rugunda, NRM Secretary General Kasuye Lumumba, ministers, members of parliament, religious leaders, among others. Samuel Sendono, UBC News.
Now, the Electoral Commission has said electoral malpractices in several areas in the country affected results in the final tally. The Electoral Commission chairperson, Justice Simon Byabakama, however, says results from the omitted 83 polling stations could not in any way affect the overall winner. Take a look at the story.
Following outcry from sections of dissatisfied groups of people over results of the just concluded presidential election, the Independent Electoral Commission has broken silence 11 days later. According to the Commission Chairperson Justice Simon Ibabakama, results from 83 polling stations with a total number of 54,357 registered voters were not included in the final tally, citing electoral malpractices. The 83 polling stations are among the 1,200 that had not been counted at the time of declaration. Byabakama cites districts like Wakiso, Mukono, Sironko, Kampala, Kotido, Bundibujo, Chotera, Rakai, Bukomansimbi, Lyantonde, Soroti, Lamu, Kole, Gomba, Jinja, Jinja City, and Sembabule as the most affected.
And I think if you remember, Sembabule is one of those, it is one of the districts where we nullify, where we did not take into account or where we did not get the results from 15 polling stations. And all that was on account of some of those things you are reporting about. So, let me say this. Wherever there was wrongdoing and it was reported, and it interfered with the process, particularly of ascertaining the actual results from that polling station, the Commission did not take that station into account. That's why Zimbabwe is one of them. So this could have disadvantaged, of course, some candidates, but there it is, because that's what the law commands us to do. Once there is interference or disruption, and the outcome from that polling station cannot be ascertained, forget about that polling station.
According to the Electoral Commission Chairperson Justice Simon Ibabakama, there are full details of whatever happened at each of the 83 polling stations in question, adding that at some polling stations, the total votes cast exceeded the number of registered voters for the polling stations.
Allegations of ballot stuffing that resulted into violence and destruction of the voting materials at the polling stations. The other reason affecting some of the polling stations was grabbing of polling materials during the counting process. The third reason, grabbing of polling materials during the polling process, including envelopes containing elections results forms. The fourth reason was declaration of results forms were missing in the results envelopes and the metallic black box. The other reason was acts of hooliganism and violence during the county, leading to grabbing of polling materials by unknown persons. In one area, I think it was in Kole, where the materials were being transported back to the tally center from the polling station, and unknown persons or thugs ambushed the officers who were transporting that kit and grabbed it and then splashed the contents in a swamp of water, and they were all destroyed.
According to the final tally, NRM candidate Yoweri Tibuhaburwa Kaguta Museveni, who was declared winner, garnered 6,042,898 votes, translating to 58%, while National Unity Platform's candidate Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert, who came in the second place, had 3,631,437 votes, which is 35% of the total votes cast.
Where if he had got all his votes, they would have made the margin shoot up. 54,000 voters. You can do arithmetic there. From the figures we have given you of the difference between the winner and the runner-up.
This means even if the affected 54,357 votes had been added to Kyagulanyi, he would still be trailing comfortably in the second position with 3,685,794 votes against Museveni's 6 million votes.
And these things will happen. These things happened. We all have the details what happened at every polling station.
The Commission says they have asked police to investigate social media footages showing their own personnel allegedly safeguarding people pre-ticking ballot papers on the voting day.
And we have taken the step to ask the police to verify the veracity, authenticity of those footages. Were those really our ballot papers or not? Were those the people in, you say policemen? Were those members of Uganda Police Force or not? So, but you know, social media and the technology now, you can make something to appear original, authentic, and believable.
Justice Simon Yabakama asserts that the declaration met the legal requirements of Section 57, subsection 4 of the Presidential Elections Act, which provides that a candidate shall be declared if he or she has obtained more than 50% of the valid votes cast at the election. Bernard Higa, UBC News, in Kampala.
Now, the State Minister for Information and National Guidance, Peter Ogwang, urges aggrieved political players to seek legal redress. Ogwang also puts on notice the international press to report objectively on Ugandan matters. Our reporter Henry Okrut filed this story.
And there's no any other problem which is within the country called Uganda as of now.
Contrary to what had been anticipated in the negative,
Uganda is peaceful from one point to another.
no serious cases of violence were reported both during and after general elections recently held in Uganda.
Uganda will remain peaceful up to tomorrow.
This is the status quo that State Minister for Information and National Guidance, Peter Ogwang, wants Ugandans to maintain.
The country is moving on well. So I want to commend and challenge the rest of our political actors, our friends who are in the opposition. Problems of Uganda can never be solved outside Uganda. Problems of Uganda will be solved within Uganda.
Ogwang is concerned with the recent acts of attempting to provoke the police and other security agencies, which could compromise the country's security.
World over, I want to put this on record. Nobody is allowed to stone any personnel who is in uniform carrying out his day-to-day duty. World over, the demonstrations are allowed, but there is no demonstration which becomes rioters, and we leave those things to go unchecked.
In a similar way, he has made an appeal to the international media and development partners on matters concerning Uganda.
If one or two mistakes have been committed by said personnel in terms of human rights violation, I want to say this: the laws are clear. The person is held personally liable for mistakes which have been committed.
This call follows unverified reports of human rights violations during the electoral exercise, as raised by members of parliament on Thursday.
I raised the Committee on Human Rights take stock of the human rights violations that marred the electoral process and report back to this House within 1 month.
As the Speaker referred the matter to the Human Rights Committee of Parliament, the call to both successful and unsuccessful contenders is to embrace life after elections.
The Constitution of the Republic of Uganda has remedies which gives you mandate to challenge both presidential, parliamentary and local government election in a civilized manner by going to court. And as you all know that in Uganda here we have 3 arms of government: the executive, the legislature and the judiciary.
The recent elections saw incumbent President Yoweri Museveni emerge victorious against his closest challenger, Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu.
As a country, we must tell our people now to get back to normal day-to-day work.
According to Minister Ogwang, what now remains is to talk less and work more. Henry Okrut, UBC.
Now, Now, the Uganda People's Defense Forces this week elected its 10 representatives in an election managed by the National Electoral Commission. The Chief of Defense Forces, General David Muhoozi, and his Deputy Lieutenant General Wilson Mbadi were among those elected to Parliament. The Minister of Works and Transport, General Katumba Wamala, is the only Army MP out of 10 that was returned to the House. President Yoweri Museveni, who chaired the UPDF Defense, which elected the Army representatives, said the MPs should be conveyor belts and listening posts in Parliament. The newly elected members of Parliament to represent the Uganda People's Defense Forces include 3 women: Colonel Dr. Victor Nekesa, Lieutenant Colonel Charity Bainababo, and Major Dr. Jennifer Alanyo. The 7 slots for male representatives were taken by General David Muhoozi, General Edward Katumba Wamala, Lieutenant General Wilson Mbusa Mbadi, Lieutenant General Peter Elwelu, Lieutenant General James Mugira, Major General Henry Matsiko, and Major General Sam Kavuma.
10 UPDF members of Parliament in this government, in this new government, I would insist on my priorities. And my priorities are like 7. Number 1, equipping the armed forces. Our armed forces must be equipped to be second to none in the region of Africa. And I will not compromise with anybody on that. Secondly, to continue budgeting for the roads and the railway. The third one is electricity. The fourth one is health. Number 6 is pay salaries for scientists. Then number 7, the wealth funds. Some of these young people, we introduced Operation Wealth Creation.
Now, the Chief Magistrate Mwanga Court 2 Esther Nasambu early this week dismissed with cost an application where Fred Nyanzi, a loser in the just concluded elections, dragged Mohammed Serko to court for want of court to issue an order for recount of votes from 50 polling stations in Kampala Central. Now, according to the magistrate Esther Nasambu, the applicant based his evidence on just mere-say events without providing court with real facts.
Fred Nyanzi Sentamu ran to court for want of justice to terminate Mohammed Serko's victory as elected member of parliament for Kampala Central, saying the voting process had been marred with irregularities. Chief Magistrate Mwanga 2 Court Esther Nasambu, after pursuing both sides' submissions Thursday morning, delivered the ruling in this case. According to Magistrate Esther Nasambu, the applicant did not bring evidence in court to prove that his agents were chased from some polling stations, as he alleges. Court also noted that the applicant did not in any way prove to court with any evidence, but based his evidence on just mere say, which court cannot base on to grant his application. In this, court dismissed Fred Nyanzi's application with costs.
And there is insufficient and irrelevant evidence abused, mostly hearsay, and that at this stage, the application for...
It was joy and happiness after the ruling from Mohammed Serko's funds. Fred Nyanzi, the applicant, who disagreed with the ruling, vowed to appeal.
It's just a beginning. I will just request my supporters to be firm and more courageous. We are heading on with another battle in the court by fronting another petition. Lies in having the election challenged in the High Court, where all these other allegations of malpractices shall be adduced, and we shall seek court's indulgence on that.
After the court ruling, Mohammed Serko, welcomed verdict.
Of course, like you heard the ruling, our fellow contestant and the applicant, Mr. Nyazi, came here for court to make a case for him. He just wanted court to make a case for him. He was on a fishing expedition. His case was frivolous, it was vexatious, it was abusing all norms of understanding.
Sereko was declared winner after garnering 16,998 votes against Freddie Nyazi's 15,975, giving a difference of 1,022 votes. Nyazi, in filing this case, claimed that the electoral process was made with multi-practices and alteration of results, among other grounds. Lydia Chomkama, Deborah Namamonde, UBC News.
Now, the House of Bishop of Church of Uganda this week said the retired Archbishop Stanley Ntagali, who recently confessed to involving in extramarital affairs with a married woman, will be handled in accordance to church laws. The communication from bishops was made at a press conference held at the Provisional Secretariat in Namirembe following a sitting that was held in Rweza, Wakiso district on the 28th of January 2021 that specifically convened to decide Ntagali's fate.
Ntagali, who recently retired from Episcopal ministry in August, recently confessed to sleeping with a married woman against church practice. In a 13th January letter, the current Archbishop, Right Reverend Stephen Kazimba, suspended Ntagali from apostolic service, having acted contrary to the vows and commitments he championed. The bishops affirmed that Ntagali committed the sin of adultery, which must be handled in accordance with the canons of the Church of Uganda.
The House resolved that Bishop Stanley Ntagali be handled in accordance with the canons of the Church of Uganda. The House appointed a team to minister to the respective parties and their family members.
According to Ivan Naijuka, the communications officer, Kampala Diocese, prescribes suspension from service if a person is found guilty of sin. But also, excommunication from service can be a penalty, especially for adultery.
I think the law within the Church of Uganda does not exclude anybody. Archbishop is not being handled in the high-handedness, it's being handled according to what the canons say. The House upheld the statement made by Archbishop Samuel Kazimba, noting that by the statement he made, he was implementing a decision that had previously been agreed upon by the House of Bishops.
The Church of Uganda House of Bishops has exclusive powers to recall the culprit to service if he or she repents his or her sins. The House of Bishops condemned the Ntagali's act and acknowledged it as a sin of an individual in the person of Bishop Ntagali Stanley.
The House of Bishops condemned the act and acknowledged it as a sin of an individual in the person of Bishop Stanley Ntagali. The Church of Christ remains healthy and spotless.
However, they said that the Church of Christ remains healthy and spotless. The House also upheld a statement made by Archbishop Kazimba on the 13th January 2021, noting that by indefinitely suspending Ntagali from priestly duties, he was implementing a decision that had previously been agreed upon by the House.
The House appointed a team to minister to the respective parties and their family members. So both parties have been catered for in terms of spiritual edification. In this state, do not think that nobody is helping to speak to the both parties in the spiritual manner. They are being catered for, so they are not left alone.
In the latest statement issued, it was noted that the House of Bishops appointed a team to minister and provide counseling to both Ntagali family and the woman's family members. Deborah Namamonde and Helen Barbara for UBC News.
The founder of Namirembe Christian Fellowship, Professor Simeon Kaiwa, has urged married couples to love one another genuinely. Professor Kaiwa, who is also a Chancellor of Kaiwa International University, was officiating at the holy matrimony of a UPDF pastor, Sergeant Universe Nahwera and Sandra Nahwera's wedding at Namirembe Christian Fellowship in Rubaga Division, Kampala.
Ecstasy was all over at Namirembe Christian Fellowship in Rubaga Division, Kampala City, when a UPDF renowned pastor, Sergeant Universe Nahwera Ruhuriza, wedded Sandra and Dinda Nahwera formally. While officiating the holy matrimony, the founder of Namirembe Christian Fellowship, Professor Simeon Kaiwa, said that in marriage both sides have to love, care, and be prayerful at all times. He affirms that once these are practiced in marriage daily, it reduces cases of divorce and domestic violence among the married couples.
Both of them should behave in a loving way to each other. Both of them, not just the wife or the husband, but both of them should put energies into the love. See, make sure that your husband really feels that you love him, by the things you do.
Kaiwa also emphasized that those who are in marriage should be obedient and dependable despite any human errors.
Marriage is a polite canon. It is a canon of a polite society, that you don't behave wild. People look at you and know that you are polite, responsible, gentle person. That's very, very important indeed. Marriage is the kind of way that it will please God.
The groom and the bride acknowledged God for enabling their marriage a success and pledged to love each other in all aspects of life until death. Uganda People's Defense Forces Band and the Asian Calvary Cross Choir of Namirembe Christian Fellowship entertained the gathering with marriage hymns. Sharon Chomdisha, UBC News.
The body of a fallen 90-year-old Owobusobozi Bisaka, whose body has been lying at Kapiemi headquarters in Kagadi district, is today being accorded a state burial. Now Bisaka's body will be received at Kapiemi headquarters at 3 p.m. today by the State Minister for Public Service, David Karuranga, who will represent President Yoweri Museveni. Take a look.
According to Minister of State for Public Service, David Karuranga, President Museveni ordered for an official burial of the fallen Owobusobozi Bisaka scheduled for January 31st. He said government is making arrangements to ensure the founder of the Faith of Unity leader is accorded a decent and official burial due to his tremendous work he did for government and its people.
Nojana kuuliriza kandi naona kwegesa nohura saidiye kandi atakutahiri rondi kugamba ngu akumigi entekereza agikuteyo kufuba nangwa abaira tainamu ekitweta religious fundamentalism atainayo kugamba iyo rata kumusagika akunobe runda akubaze kubinangwa eyike nkiabaina atunda kurungi kandi nyikirizeji erimu abantu bangi muno kumanyira.
Kagadi woman member of parliament Jennifer Chomuhendo described Owobusobozi Bisaka as a hard-working person who played a pivotal role in development of Hoima and unity of its people.
Atwegise okuba abamu, ayegisa abantu okukolagana kurungi, ayegisa abantu obutahukana n'endamu kyokegamba ng'okwahukana kukozeeki okuireho. So ninyongera okugamba nti obumo obutwikire twine tata mukama ruhanga obusobozi omubiri gwe gukyari active gukyayina obwomezi obukora.
Kagadi RDC Lilian Ruteraho lauded the late Bisaka for his role in reducing domestic violence and eradicating cannibalism from the district.
Kamarango soboza twire natamba nyenta kashire no mukagadi ngo abantu bakane barya abantu eco cyaho none cyo cyumusimira umwanya gono gwararum tukasanga ngo akiyaho uburogo abantu okurogera abantu busha ecyaka kihaho kandi nangwa n'abatakumwikiriza edine zindi nizikiriza ngo mukamarango busobozi akihaho uburogo yaho kurya abantu.
Omukwenda Mitoro on behalf of the family of the founder of Faith of Unity Religion and Omukwenda Mugisa on behalf of Advisory Committee at Kapiemi headquarters confirmed the death of Obusobozi through local radio announcement on Saturday. They said Obusobozi Bisaka was first admitted at Nakasero Hospital early this month before being flown to Nairobi for further medical treatment. Believers of Faith of Unity said Obusobozi only lost the body, but he is still alive spiritually and will continue to bless them.
Uno obusobozi kumuro ahumwira umubiri kyonko moyo gusigaire ni gukora abokuba nkimanyire ngutwita tubano okwikiriza okwijira kutarubwo abokuba omuntu wena owaba atayirwemo so bisaka akatekwa egi akabali insaho yakwirwemo ruhanga
umubiri gutekwa kuhumura cyonko moyo gwamutahiremo ogukizaga abantu gutekwa kumagura kiza kandi tonka abantu babunyoro ekituresiingisa tucyokire ekintu kyangunonga abali babantu bakaba baturi kubi amaruma rango obusobozi yatwegeseze kuba kwetekaniza abo kuba katwe namba 23 obworo bwabwe nambe zone abandi abatali bayikiriza bayino kutina ngubo bakaba bagoboroire abo kuba mukama rango obusobozi akaramaziro obulya baitu hati nibatekereza ngo obulya na amarogo bijja kugaruka ndeka kurungi yatugamba akatusomesa omuntu wena bwayijukya akira nicyo kibaire kikuru hanyikirize.
UBC Weekly News Roundup. We take a look at stories that made headlines throughout the week. Now, the late leader of the Bamasaba, Umukuka Sa Bob Mushikori, has been laid to rest at his ancestral home village of Shishabatsi, that is in Busai Parish in Bududa district. Umukuka Sa Bob Mushikori died on the 4th of January this year at his residence in the senior quarters in Mbale City. The Energy and Minerals Development Minister, Dr. Goretich Tutu, represented government at the event.
And another round is coming. Thank you so much.
The late leader of Bamasaba, Umukuka Sa Bob Mushikori, has been laid to rest at his ancestral home in Shibashi village, Busai Parish in Bududa district. This was after a funeral service held at St. Andrew's Cathedral in Mbale City. Maria Goret Chitutu was the chief mourner and delivered President's condolence message to the Inzu, Yabamasaba and Bagisu in general.
Will be greatly missed by the family, relatives, friends, members of the royal family, Bugisu region, and the entire nation. I share with you the grief of this difficult moment and pray that God gives you strength and courage to go through it. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Signed, Yoweri K. Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, on the 28th of January, 2021.
Umukuka Sa Bob Mushikori died of COVID-19 on 4th January this year at his residence in the senior quarters in Mbale City. In Inzia Masaba leaders that include the Speaker, Rose Nelima, appealed to the cultural institution leaders to be more united and alleged that Sir Bob Mushihore could have died of pressure due to pressure by some invidious pressure from the Mwambu clan that he hands over the throne.
As we speak now, Umukuka Masaba Mushihore died of pressure. Yes, COVID came in, but it was pressure. Pressure was so bad. People were abusing him left and right and center. That's why this Umukuka, this new Umukuka, should have a uniting factor, should have a uniting heart. We should all come together at the same time. We must collect money to build Masaba.
Umukuka Sir Bob Mushihore II is from Wanale clan, and he ascended to the throne of Inzia Masaba in 2015, and his term of office had ended in June 2020. The minister in charge of women affairs at Inzia Masaba, Sarah Maswele Maseke, urged the Bamasaba to get united in the wake of the death of their cultural leader.
Umukuka Sir Bob Mushihore is teaching us that life is short and everything here becomes meaningless when we lose the breath. So that's why we are calling on the unit of all of Amasaba, the people who feel they are disgruntled. There is always room to discuss. But what I know, Umukuka has left things in black and white signed, and soon we are going to call the General Assembly, the heads of clans, the elders.
Joan Chito, the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Obwacha Bazinga of Busoga, sympathized with the leadership for Bamasaba and called for intervention.
And send off our lovely friend, a friend to Busoga, a king we shall never forget. He's been a friend to Busoga for so many years. The problems that they're having here in Mbale or Bumasaba is a very, very common problem, with especially the so-called Chisanja. We cannot have this. This seems to be so political. We cannot have Chisanjas, Ebisanja for kings. 5 years is just too little. By the time they think of developing, 5 years have already elapsed. The ministry that's concerned with culture, please come up, because otherwise people are going to kill each other. We cannot have 3 kings fighting, of kings to be, fighting for one position. It has to be systematic. I mean, people have to know who is following.
The Secretary General of Uganda Kings and Culture Leaders Forum, George Otim, attended the King's burial ceremony.
He was a man who was very joyous and very cooperative, and he was promoting the forum. He used to unite. Whenever you invite him, he will not let you down. He would come. The problem which I see in the kingdom, which is bringing a lot of stress, is that they don't have proper laws. Their constitution have loopholes, like the ones of Bamasaba. They should have a strong constitution which cherishes a key and a respected leader, since he's cultural, from any part of Bugisho. And their brothers also in Kenya should be considered, since they are one, like the Eteso.
Yiga Muhammad, Helen Barbara Jizamba for UBC News.
Election for the youth MPs to the 11th Parliament will kick off tomorrow across the country. Now, youths in Uganda are clustered as a special interest group, and the youth MPs are elected through the electoral colleges.
The youth across the country are slated to hold their parliamentary representatives 2021-2026 election this coming Monday. The elections are to be held on a regional basis, that is North, Central, West and East. In the Central region, which is Buganda sub-region, the youth contesting for this seat include Simon Senyonga Independent, Ivan Bowe Independent, Agnes Shobo NRM, Mike Katongole Independent, Moses Cassidy Noop, Alvin Semambia Independent, Kasumba Javira FDC, and Zeditwaula Abdul Independent.
Leaders who promise much deliver less.
Miss Namale Immaculate is a 22-year-old finalist at Makerere University studying education and one of the participants in the youth elections. She started a savings group using 100,000 that she got from her mother. The savings group has evolved into a business and is supporting many youths.
So we started by doing daddies and chicken. I had someone, she's a district agent, Aunt Patricia. So she used to come to see how the project was running. She was inspired. She gave us a machine. To simplify the work, it is a sealer. Like when you're packaging daddies, you use that one instead of using candles. So even my mom was challenged, was like, even people from outside are supporting you. So she started giving us money.
Kanamwanji Ivan is a student who once had a dream of becoming a medical doctor. But this has since fallen through and is looking forward to training in mechanical engineering instead.
Ndizosoma okutuuka kwogwo omulimu gw'oyagala nyingi ate nga ne taata ssente talina bulungi ate kati kino kyose tekyetaagisa ssente nyingi.
Sarah Babirye is an incumbent Central Youth Member of Parliament. She's however surprised that her constituency does not know her or understand her well.
I really don't know, but maybe I'm not informed. Yeah, because even if you walk along the whole village, you might find even no one knows the person. Yeah, maybe about the problem is with the leaders, the youth leaders we elect at village level.
We do work with the youth structures. You get my point. In some areas, when there's an issue and it is, let's say, maybe land grabbing, I've been visiting them.
Because the youth comprise the biggest part of the population, they are represented by 5 members of parliament from Western, Eastern, Northern and Central or Buganda region as a special interest group. As a special interest group, the youth have a big coverage, sometimes of up to 26 districts.
The army has not more than 40,000 soldiers, but they have 10 members of parliament. The young people who make 77% of this population in Uganda have only 5 members of parliament. Is it practical that a person who is representing Central Region can represent 27 districts? How do you measure his efficiency, his monitoring? A person in Eastern Uganda who represents 45 districts, 47 districts, how are you able to assess their progress? So it's actually the bastardization of the politics which makes people to think that, you know, we have enough members of parliament. We do not have enough. We need to advocate for more.
Some of the youth, however, fear that they might not appear on the ballot paper because of previous dealings with the Electoral Commission.
The GISO, the DISO, the PISO, the RDC, all the security officers up to the DPC, all of them are working for the candidate of the party because they were recruited on partisan political party basis. Now, because of that, there is massive threatening. We have seen candidates who have been threatened, candidates who have been pulled out of the races.
Right now, I'm not settled, of course. I'm looking at a scenario whereby my candidature is being questioned of all the work we've done, of all things I've gone through. They're questioning my candidature, so I'm not safe. My voters should know that.
A complaint against a nominated candidate can be brought up by anyone. It can be brought up by a member of the general public and even a person who is not a member of the Electoral College. If they know and they have evidence that there is something that needs to be investigated or looked into deeply, then they are within their rights to raise such a complaint. So it's not true that a complaint, electoral complaint, can only be brought against a nominated candidate by a member of the Electoral College. No.
Some of the youths complain that they are only remembered during elections.
People who benefit, there are people who are close to those people, and those people, they are always available when it is time for electing them, but after elections they disappear.
Some youth claim that the votes for cash issue is a big stumbling block, with some saying that they have spent big sums of money during campaigns.
Much more expensive than even the general elections. Why? They have been highly commercialized because of the high competition. So imagine that I'm supposed to be running for political office. I shouldn't be investing any shilling because I'm a special interest group. Well, not me, but most people, if they go in parliament, they will be traders. Because if I can invest 100 million for my election, that means in the first 1 week, if I'm given 300 million for my car, I can make a bigger profit out of it, subsequently in the other years.
We originally had set aside, or rather, appointed the city of Masaka to host this. But this is, first of all, we need to say that the regional delegates conference can be held in any place within the region. And so for that matter, moving from Masaka to Mubende is well within the region, and it's well within our powers as the Electoral Commission to appoint a venue, which is what we did. And when we appoint a venue and we consider issues that relate to smooth management of the election, and we make a change, it is still within our powers as the Electoral Commission, and we are facilitating candidates to get there. So at any venue within the central region, we can host this, and now for this purpose, we have looked at Mubende municipality. So we will be able to observe SOPs, given the big number of delegates that we're going to have.
The contestants want the Electoral Commission to attend to their issues, mainly to guard them against monetization of the electoral process.
Whereby delegates refuse to vote because they had to be paid 2 million and they paid 500,000. Now, obviously, that causes them to be extremely disgruntled.
Went out and had fun, and they were not available for polling day because they had money. And these are delegates coming from different places. With all due respect, receiving hundreds of thousands of shillings can sort of distract from the main business. So the core business of the delegates conference, for which we have arranged, accommodation and all things like that, is come, participate in the election, and then we will facilitate you. We're going to refund, and you'll sign off your money.
Aisha, a 23 stay-home mom, hopes that the new leaders will address their unemployment issues.
Fenga from Vuka Guaino Kwetekamu Mutima. Ogutandika okukola government si yegenda okujja kuwa omulimu tekiriyo
ate webesobola okuwa obusobozi
webesobola okuwa obusobozi nakyo kibeerawo neera ngerayo baganje esobola okuwa obusobozi bateekawo era akakwakulizo mu bannafe awo abanene tojja kumpa ssente bweziti osobola nange okukolera kino ogenda okulaba ng'onyigirizibwa n'ogamba owaaye kambeereyo mu mbeera yange oba nnima nnime.
The venue for Central Region Youth Elections has reportedly been changed from Masaka to Mubende, despite the candidates' complaints.
2 days from now, we were given sufficient notice that the election had to happen in Masaka. Just 1 day to the election, we are given notice that actually the election, no notice is given. We are simply hearing from rumor that the election has been shifted to Mubende. My own ground team tells me that from the interaction of the security personnel at the district level, the biggest threat is because Masaka is predominantly NUP.
We originally had set aside, or rather, appointed the city of Masaka to host this. But this is, first of all, we need to say that the regional delegates conference can be held in any place within the region. And so for that matter, moving from Masaka to Mubende is well within the region, and it's well within our powers as the Electoral Commission to appoint a venue, which is what we did. And when we appoint a venue and we consider issues that relate to smooth management of the election, and we make a change, it is still within our powers as the Electoral Commission, and we are facilitating candidates to get there. So at any venue within the central region, we can host this, and now for this purpose, we have looked at Mubende municipality. So we will be able to observe SOPs, given the big number of delegates that we're going to have.
A report by the United Nations Population Fund indicated that the youth unemployment is currently at 64%. However, there is a limited participation of the youth in professional and technical occupations and in paid employment.
They lack capital. Even the ones who are educated do not have capital. They do not have any hope of starting a business. So my hope would be, I am not out there, I will not say I'm going to create employment opportunities, but given the mandate, if I'm elected as a youth member of parliament, for us what we believe in is about the tangible experience. If you're dealing in chapati making, if you're into welding, for us we want to add on something. We are going to lobby the little finances, we want to inject there. So I want to find you when you're doing something small. Because
I wanted to have a limitation or regulation of people to be employed in public service. Someone works from 27 years to 60 years in government. But these jobs are supposed to be cyclical. Someone should take over after certain years because the population is growing. as you're aging and still in the country, you've reaped what you've reaped. Let other people come and take up opportunities.
Sharon Chomjisha, UBC News.
Our UBC Weekly News Roundup takes a very short break, but will return with business news, international and sports news.
Enjoy great value from Airtel with the all-new My Pakalast combo offers. We have customized especially for you the best deals on minutes, data and SMS with our 3-in-1 My Pakalast combo to give you the best value as you stay in touch with friends and family. To activate My Pakalast voice combo, dial *100*2*1# to get started.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Double data. Airtel introduces double data, the biggest deal ever on smartphones in Uganda. Buy a smartphone, 3G or 4G, and get 100% data bonus from Airtel. Airtel is giving you 100% bonus data on all weekly and monthly bundles for every new smartphone connected to Airtel for the first 3 months. Dial *175*9# to enjoy double data. Double data, double data. Oh, Airtel, the smartphone network, regulated by Uganda Communications Commission.
Welcome back from the break, and we're glad that you're still watching UBC television. Now into our business news this afternoon. Women bar owners this week decried the lengthy closure of their businesses due to the coronavirus restrictions. They appeal to government to consider reopening their sector and also vow to respect the standard operating procedures to cap the spread of coronavirus. Their plea comes at a time when government is considering reopening schools in the coming weeks.
The continued closure of bars has had severe impact on distributors and retailers of alcoholic beverages, leading to loss of revenues of up to 550 billion shillings. This situation continues to escalate as the bar closure drags on for more months.
We have been forced to downsize and make the painful decision to lay off employees. This is not a decision made lightly, and in effect, it contributes to the national unemployment burden.
Although sector players are aware of the fact that the reopening of bars presents a risk to the well-being of the country, they believe with the right standard operating procedures, the safety and well-being of the public can be assured.
Many times I'm reaching people where you find bars are open and they're not following the SOPs. So you find government is risking having people doing what they should not be doing it if they would open up. People, not like the bar owners, would know they may be penalized if they're not following the SOPs. So if the government would open up and give people strict guidelines, it would help better than people just doing it the way they're doing it now.
If other businesses are open, we should be given the same opportunity to operate in the same climate. keeping bars closed has affected not just the bars, but even us, the distributors who supply them, affecting so many others.
Bars and clubs, which are classified among the small and medium enterprises, significantly contribute to the economy of Uganda through provision of employment and support to the retail and trade sector.
We find ourselves in a situation where we face increased difficulty in meeting our credit and tax.
It is 10 months down the road since government announced a total lockdown of all sectors of Uganda's economy apart from the essential services. This was in a bid to curb the fast spread of the coronavirus. Over time, government has eased most of the restrictions, which has in turn spurred economic recovery. However, bars and clubs are still on lockdown to date.
I know it has been fighting for our lives, but on some extent we need also to live because we need an income. And these bars, they are employing people like barmen, waitresses, bouncers. So look at this population is seated at home. Seated at home without any income.
Juliet, the proprietor of Blue Point Bar, is one of the many businesswomen whose enterprises is on the edge of collapsing. The continued closure spells doom for this single mother's remaining bar and entertainment spot.
Kati abaana nina bakandidates babiri tebazzeeyo ku ssomero. Amabanja mangi. Simanyi bwe ngenda kumanejinga. Not being a single mother, business weddewoko literally kimu nkitunze because we have to eat.
She has already closed one of her popular bars due to debts, in addition to sacking all her staff.
They were both in Chireka. Kachiran Road Nagamba, I'm demanding like we're around media. Nagama, no, I cannot wait all this long, just give me one shop. I get a tenant, I'm percent because Nanga, this is my business. So what I could make is 2 places. Kati eyo banning closing. That's so what I could rent.
Her sentiments are re-echoed by some of the worst affected players in the sector.
Nze mukyala ndi n'omwana wuuno natandika bizinesi eno nga ndi lubuto nga yenyimirizaawo n'okusasula eddwaliro buli kimu naye up to now tebanaba tuggulawo tugezaako ne tuweeyo ne tutunda mazzi busoda naye byekwatagana n'omwenge byo tebanaba tulowoozaako ate nga bebituwa akasente akategerekeka sirikawo tulina ennaku. Even the children are going back to school. These mothers, they don't have anything. They have lost all the business. They are out of the business because the small capital they had, they have already eaten it, used it. So where will they get the money to pay for the fees? They don't have anything left.
Bars and clubs are cited among the top breeding grounds for coronavirus globally. It is believed that after a few drinks, physical distancing and other forms of self-restraint might begin to disappear. However, the stakeholders in this sector are promising to adhere to the standard operating procedures for their own and the public's good. So far, government has not yet given a hint on when they're planning to officially open the bars and the entertainment spots. For the business community like Juliet, who runs the bar here in Chireka, the painful wait has been too long. Dennis Igoa for UBC News in Chireka.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the UBC Weekly News Roundup comes to an end. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon and more of UBC's programming. I'm Lauryn, Masika, Kazimoto.
Stay connected to the largest